Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Wednesday night,
Wednesday night.
Podcasty.
Yeah, feeling a little podcasty for sure. It's weird to me, this happens all the time, but we spend so much time, doing the countdown, talking about how many days there are. And now we're already headed into week 2. It's like, you can just feel it, man. The season is going to go by pretty damn quickly. So here we are Wednesday heading into week 2. Pretty excited.
It does have a knack to do that. It's like everything. You wait for your, whatever it is, your birthday party or when you're younger, or Christmas.
Yeah,
or,
Christmas especially.
It's there and it's gone. And you're like, damn it, I felt like I just waited my whole life for that.
Yep.
And, you never want to wish away the summer. I mean, that's, people who have done this job for a while. And I'm coming up on a decade. You never want to wish away your summer, but you just want football to return so badly. And then it's here and it seems to go by really, really quickly.
I love college football so much, Brandon.
Well,
that's what I've realized having it back. I just love it so much, more than anything.
That's what I was just going to say. I'm super pumped about the freaking Lions tomorrow, dude. Thursday night.
Oh, there you go.
Kicking off the NFL season. Lions, Chiefs going to Arrowhead. I know a lot of Lions fans are excited about that. Chiefs may be down a couple big-time players.
Let me ask you a question here. If the Lions go, because there's a lot of hype, and I don't want to go off too far on the Lions. I've been considering, I'm not an NFL guy,
right?
But I've been considering hopping on the bandwagon. I feel like now's a good time. It's not like they're coming off a tremendous success. It's not like they've had 2 Super Bowl victories. And now I'm going to decide to be a fan. But I got to ask you, if they go into Kansas City and they get their asses handed to them, does that change anything for you as far as the excitement for this year? Or would it just kind of be, Kansas City's a good team. The Lions aren't quite there yet. Let's see what they do for the rest of the year.
Yeah, if they get their asses kicked, I mean, are you talking like 3 touchdowns?
They get 3 plus touchdowns.
That would be pretty disheartening. That would, because everything that the Lions have, even if they lose tomorrow, everything that the Lions have seems to be built to like at least keep pace with a team like the Chiefs. The Lions were really good on offense last year. They scored a lot of points. Their defense wasn't very good. They shored that up. They added some weapons on offense. So if they get boat raced, it'll be a bummer. It's not going to change anything for what I ultimately think is like their ceiling this year, which I think is to win the division and probably get beat deeper into the play. Like, I don't know if they're as good as Philly yet, but I think, they're better than the Packers. They're better than the Bears. They're probably better than the Vikings. Like, I would love, if they win the NFC North this year, I'll be as happy as can be. Everything beyond that will be gravy. And if you get your ass kicked by the Chiefs, you're still okay. That's how I see that. But I don't know, man. I think they're going to have a shot tomorrow. I really do. And like I said, the Chiefs are already without Chris Jones. He's their best player on defense. Travis Kelce doinked his knee. He might be out. So we'll see. We will see. Yeah, no wine. No wine for you, Chris. Are you feeling all right over there? Or?
I feel like there's a reason for it. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to drink the wine with a few ice cubes while we're doing the lives here to kind of loosen things up. But I also feel like it takes away from my ability to really process questions and information and what's going on. So I'm trying to balance both worlds here. We're going to try it sober tonight. We're going to try Fan-Led Wednesday sober tonight. And if it sucks, I'll go back to heavy drinking. I mean, that's how it works.
Well, I polished off a diesel right before we got going here, and I'm feeling good.
I've had plenty of Mountain Dew today. That's no problem. No problem.
Feeling tuned right up, ready to go. Diesel intravenously. And feel pretty good about that. So the lines are open. The floor is open. If you guys have any questions, as we know, today is Fan-Led Wednesday. Chris, we talked about this before. It happened last year. It's kind of feeling this way already. It's only a game, but it feels like I don't know, wake me up for Penn State. Or that's what it was last year anyway. I know Penn State was like the game that everybody was waiting. It was like, all right, let's beat Rutgers. Let's beat Illinois. Let's beat this. Not so much Illinois last year. But the point is does it feel a little snoozy out there? I mean, in the ether of Michigan football fandom and the atmosphere that is, college football, because let's be honest, these first 3 games are not good. Jim Harbaugh is suspended. He'll be back for the Big Ten opener against Rutgers, but even that one's not. I mean, Michigan's probably going to be favored by 3 scores in that one too, I would think, or something close to it. What's your, how are you feeling it? What's the pulse like for you?
I mean, I think generally there's a sense around Michigan's schedule that they don't play anybody impressive here for the first several weeks. And I think that turns some people off, but I also think that the performance week 1, even though from a team standpoint, you get essentially a 30-0 win. I know that they got the last second field goal, but they handled their business. But given some of the things that happened, you want to see some improvement out of the offensive line. You want to see, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum have a more productive afternoon. You're excited to see guys like Rod Moore and Will Johnson get back. And so even though I think that you're not expecting the UNLV game to be a nail biter per se, or even Bowling Green, I think people are excited to watch this team develop, because it's clear that right out of the gate, they didn't look like some of the other top tier teams out there. I mean, they look good, they look solid, but they look like there's room for improvement. And so I think people are going to be excited to see what that looks like. And then, of course, Bowling Green the following week, not necessarily an exciting matchup, but it's the first night game in the big house. The atmosphere is going to be pretty impressive. I think everybody's going to get a chance to see what the new lighting system can do. And so there's going to be some exciting things to look forward to. Outside of the competition itself, I think Michigan's biggest competition over the next, 3 weeks is Michigan. See how they can perform, see if they can get some continuity on the offensive line, see if guys like Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards can go off. And I think a lot of people expect that'll happen. If we go, if you start to see some of these things, I think that's the intriguing part that we talked about on Monday. If you start to see some of these things carry over week by week, then you maybe start to get a little bit concerned. You want to see more consistency out of the kicking game. Brandon, I know you said on Monday, you would ask me, you were a little curious, has Blake Corum lost a step? I'm not sure did you see the graphic of him running?
Don't want to hear it.
You didn't see him hit 21 miles an hour in 4 seconds?
Chris, don't make me treat you like one of these Twitter people, man.
Listen. I'm also going to say this, Brandon. I went back and watched the film just to see if I could see what you were seeing, and I thought I saw some pretty impressive stuff out of Blake. Now, did he get caught? Yeah, but I've never thought that his top end speed was similar to Donovan Edwards, which is why I actually picked Donovan Edwards to finish the year with more rushing yards during our preseason show. I just thought there was going to be more explosive plays from Edwards. But there was one play in the first half. I can't remember if it was the first or second quarter, but Blake Corum took the ball, stopped at the line of scrimmage, made a left cut really good, and then kind of angled around back to the right, similar to a run that I saw last year against Indiana where he took it to the house. Now, he didn't take it all the way, but he was doing some of the things that we were accustomed to seeing him do last year. So I agree with account 22. I think he's fine. I saw enough out of him to know that the shake and the shimmy is still there. I think he just needed to get one game under his belt to get his sea legs.
There may be some truth to that. I mean, he hadn't been hit in a really long time. I mean, that's a shock to the system when you're back out there taking it live, for the first time in several months. And maybe using the long run wasn't the best example for me, because he did hit a top end speed that was pretty impressive. It was one of the top 5 of the entire college football weekend. But to me, running in a straight line when you're in the clear is not the same as trying to bend the corner on a knee that is maybe not feeling completely normal again. And I thought there were a couple times where I saw, man, I feel like Blake of last year would have got the edge on that play, and he didn't. And it might just be, maybe that edge defender took a really good angle, or maybe Blake cut it up a little. I wasn't saying like, oh, he looks awful. Like, not even close. But I thought at times he looked to be a little hesitant to put his foot in the ground and go a little more dancing. And then, on a couple times where I thought he might get the corner, he didn't. And then, on the long run, he looked pretty good. I did mention, that the guy chasing him was not a burner, but he had a good angle. He took
He
off
did
right
take a
away,
great angle, yeah.
and he caught him right at the 1 or the 2. So I don't know. I think people took some of my comments out of context because there was some same thing being like, "Oh, did you see?" I mean, yeah, I did see it, but that I also saw 12 or 13 other carries where I was like, I'm not so sure about that one.
Yeah,
running in a straight line. Guess what? He's been doing that for a long time in his rehab. Cutting, planting, turning the corner, getting hit. That was the first time he's been doing a lot of that stuff in a while. So
yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with Blake. I just thought, and like I said, I wasn't the only one who brought it to my attention. And there were a couple points where I was like, maybe in another week or two, that won't look like that anymore, and he'll be the Blake of old. And I'm sure if you ask Blake, he'd probably tell you he's back now. He said it for a while. He said he feels great, but until you really start taking some hits on your legs and your knees and your thighs, it probably gives you a little bit of a hesitancy, and that's what I thought I was seeing. So I'm very encouraged by the fact that he was north of 21 miles an hour. That's freaking moving, dude. That's good. That bodes well for the future.
What do you think you'd clock at, Brandon? What do you think your top end speed is these days?
I mean, dude, look.
Are you getting in double digits?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. What? Deep into double digits. Deep. Yes.
Deep into double digits?
Deep, son.
I don't know that we're going deep into double digits.
I was just going to say, it's not going to be for much more than 15 yards, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to hit.
Well,
I'll hit 15 miles an hour. I think you have to understand, 1 mile per hour on foot is a lot. So if I'm 6 miles per hour slower than Blake, that's substantial. Like, that's a lot of ground to make up.
I think at some point in the near future, we're going to put it to the test. We're going to have to put it to the test. We're going to have to find a closed street, and we're going to have to put it to the test just so that the people. I'm seeing 12 mile an hour. I'm seeing a solid 13. I'm seeing somebody say built for the booth. So, we're not sure here. We will test it out. We will see what Brandon's top end speed is.
Blind squirrels find nuts all the time, and sometimes dudes in their late 30s and 40s return to live the glory years for one last moment, one shining moment when they need it.
Sometimes they pull a hammy, go face first into the pavement, and they're never the same again. So we will see. We will see.
Little chin music, couple stitches, dude, call it a day. You never know, man.
Wasn't it Kevin Hart that just tried to race somebody and now he's in a wheelchair?
He blew out his abdominal muscles, and that dude's actually in good shape. So that's scary.
Exploded internally, tried to run.
That is a little bit scary. All right, here's a good question. I've thought about this myself. I wonder if any strategy went into the order of assignment. So Todd Frigo, good question here. With split head coaching duties this week, Jay Harbaugh getting the first half, Mike Hart getting the second half, and a potential comfortable second half lead, do we think that Mike Hart coaches as normal or turtles the offense as his only half to coach the team? I mean, if Mike Hart was going to lean in a direction, you'd think he'd lean towards running the ball, and that might bode well for the situation of the game anyway. But I think we talked about this before. Like, I would expect that Jim Harbaugh has an extremely detailed plan and expectation before these games, knowing that he's not going to be there. And I just don't think any of the guys that are sitting in as head coaches would deviate from it much.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, regardless of whether it was Mike Hart or even if it was Jay Harbaugh coaching the whole game, I think the second half is going to look the way it would if Jim Harbaugh himself were on the sideline. And so does he coach normal? Yeah, I think he coaches normal to what you would see on any given Saturday, probably similar to what we saw last Saturday, where if Michigan's got a comfortable lead, you probably don't see J.J. McCarthy, much after the third, if at all after the third. And you see guys like Khalil Mullings, you see, some of the other running backs getting a run, but, being heavy on the run. One thing I'm really interested in and excited to see what they do this weekend is, what do they do with the quarterback situation? Because we saw Davis Warren got his opportunity. And when you listen to Jim Harbaugh talk on Monday, he said, look, like Davis Warren got his shot, and now some other guys are going to get an opportunity. First guy off the bench is going to be Jack Tuttle, but they also want to get Jaden Denegal and Alex Orji a run on Saturday as well. So really, really excited to see what they do once JJ goes out of the game, because you know what you're going to get out of him. Not to deviate too far from the question, but again, went back and watched the game, looked at some other angles of the film. His vision downfield and the way that he moved in the pocket while keeping his eyes downfield, his growth from last year to this year is is impressive. There were several times where JJ last year puts his head down, tucks it, and runs with it. And he was just like, it was almost like, Gallagher. You play that game where you're using your spaceship and you're dodging the shit. He was just in the pocket, back and forth, dodging, buying himself time, slinging it down the field. He looked, when I'm down on the sideline, I've said this before, I can only get a certain sense of the game. It's not till I go back and watch it and see it from above and see these different angles. And I'm like, holy shit. Like that third touchdown pass to Roman Wilson.
Outstanding.
One of the best balls I've ever seen him throw. There's one he had against Ohio State, I think his freshman year where he came. And it was actually Roman Wilson that he hit down the sideline. So tremendous throw, tremendous effort from him. But we also saw how big of a drop-off it is when he went out. So really excited to see what Tuttle brings to the table. Really excited to see if we can get Denegal and Orji an opportunity.
I said this it's funny you used your analogy of Gallagher and moving through the pocket. The analogy I used when I talked to Jamie today was, remember, I don't remember which version it was, but one of the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies where he's in the gym or maybe in the hallway and the kid's trying to fight him and he's just like, the kid's punching him and everything is slowed down into like the Spidey sense mode. And he's just like dodging punches and like looking at the arms. And he's like, dude, I felt like that's what JJ was like. Everything just was in slow motion to him. Every throw he made, like that throw you're talking about, the third touchdown to Roman Wilson, you literally could not have walked down there and handed the ball to him in a better spot.
Double coverage, two defenders right there, right over their hands. Perfect. Dropped it in the bucket. Roman obviously made a great catch, but yeah, that stuff is you can't see that from the field view. You don't get a sense of how good of a throw that was.
It's so funny too that you even referenced the throw from 2 years ago where he dropped it in over the corner and in front of the safety against Ohio State. I talked about that exact throw on Jamie's show today because I was like, you can go back to JJ's freshman year. He'll make an NFL throw at least one every game, and you're like, damn, dude, look at the arm talent on that kid.
Yeah.
Last year, the one that sticks out, I think, was in his first start, the second game of the season, where he's fading up to his left and hits Cornelius Johnson as he, like 1 second before he goes out of bounds, like the perfect trajectory while moving. I mean, that's an impossible throw, and he makes it look really, really easy. And the whole game looked like that on Saturday. Like I said, slowed down. He's in complete control. He knew exactly where his guys were going to be. And that's how he was able to set the record for the most efficient game. That's why he had 15 completions in a row at one point. I mean,
let me ask you, we know he set a Michigan record. We know he looked really good. How much do you think the additional drip of a visor played a role in his performance on Saturday? I got to believe it played some. It played a little bit, Brandon.
Polarized, maybe, like when you're fishing and you can see the fish before you even cast. That
see things nobody else can see. There you go.
Absolutely. He looked phenomenal. And again, part of it was what ECU was given to him, but you still have to make the throws. And they were on point all day long. They were selling out to stop the run. So when they did drop back to pass, I mean, it was almost like 7-on-7. I mean, he was just winging that thing around, but every ball was tight, on target, on time. Even the one that got tipped in the end zone was like an amazing throw. The defender just made a slightly better play on that one ball and got up to tip it. I mean, he was phenomenal all day long. Speaking of his favorite receiver of the day, Chris, I know where you're at with him. It doesn't seem to matter who it is. Whoever's in the number 1 jersey, that's just your guy, right?
Well, let's be fair. I was all about Roman before he took that. I listed him as the top receiver. And I got a lot of pushback on that. People were like, no, it's Cornelius. It's Cornelius. It's Cornelius. I don't know, man. I've been pretty big on Roman Wilson for a while now. But yes, the number 1 jersey also helps quite a bit in terms of how highly I think of a person. Yes, the drip value, of course.
There you go. So this is an interesting question at this point because right now Roman Wilson is clearly JJ McCarthy's favorite receiver. He's obviously able to get open almost at will. Is Roman Wilson going to outproduce? They says those Ohio State receivers, but I mean, you got Marvin Harrison, you've got Emeka Ibuka, you've got Julian Fleming, these are all at one point one of the most coveted wide receiver prospects in the country, all 4 or 5-star guys. I mean, they're NFL guys. It's a tall ask, but it doesn't seem outlandish at this point.
Well, I'll say this. If you don't have a quarterback that can get the ball there consistently or an offensive line that can take care of business, then a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr. is only going to be able to do so much during a game. And, I listened to Joel Klatt earlier today, and he had a very lengthy segment on his podcast devoted specifically to Ohio State and the concerns that he has there at the quarterback position, up front on the offensive line. Didn't see really anything special out of the running game. And so I think we saw that in week 1. And I think that's why you saw Ohio State drop a few spots in the AP poll. Now, does the AP really matter all that much at this point? Not really, because Michigan's 1-0 and Ohio State's 1-0. And we know what's going to happen if those teams actually take care of business on the field. But that being said, Marvin Harrison Jr. had 2 receptions last weekend? Roman Wilson.
3.
2 or 3 receptions. I mean,
your point remains. He did not have an impact on the game.
It was an inferior opponent, a game that a guy like that should be able to have a big outing. He didn't, and Roman Wilson went out and took care of business. And if you had asked this question prior to the season, my gut feeling would have been that Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably going to run away with it and outproduce everybody. But based on what we saw last weekend and what some of the problems look like in Columbus, I wouldn't be surprised if Roman Wilson ends up being the conference's leading receiver this year.
You were right. I was thinking of a different game, or maybe it was I don't know. 2 catches, 18 yards for Marvin.
2 catches for 18 yards for a guy that everybody assumes, first round pick, absolute freak, guy that's going to last in the NFL. 2 catches against Indiana for 18 yards. Something seems off.
This is an interesting question, one that I meant to actually address before the season started, and for whatever reason, it just didn't fit into what we were doing. I know I had a lot of internal dialogue with myself about this, because as soon as JJ McCarthy was not voted a captain, the Spartan Wieners came out of the woodwork to jump on people.
Do they ever go back into the woodwork? They're always out of the woodwork.
Here's one thing, and we'll get into lots of discussion about this. First of all, Evan, good question. What do you think of JJ not being voted a captain when Cade was voted that way last year? Okay. Like I said, when that happened, Michigan State people just couldn't wait to jump in and be like, remember Connor Cook? Here's one thing, one discerning factor. There were people who called Connor Cook a dickhead. JJ McCarthy's never going to get that one day of his entire life. So there's one starting point. There's many others to go on to, and I tweeted something about this, because the 3 offensive players that got named a captain were Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinner, and Blake Corum. As high as I think of JJ, leadership, intangibles, study habits, work ethic, I honestly don't know if I can put him ahead of those 3 guys. And that's not a knock on JJ. That is an absolute endorsement for the 3 dudes who did get it. So yeah. I think there's different ways to look at it. Again, he is only a true junior. Yes, it's in the past. There have been underclassmen who have been voted captain before, but this year was very, very heavy on seniors and 5th-year guys. Yeah. So per Jim Harbaugh, that's what they limited it to. Now, if that's some little weird spin to cover up JJ, I don't care. I really don't care, because I think that point that I just made is enough. Like, even JJ himself, the guy, those 3 dudes are more than worthy of being captains. And if JJ's number 4, then he's on the outside looking in. So be it. I can also tell you this. Take it to the freaking bank. If JJ McCarthy returns next year, he'll be a captain. I just think so much got made of this where there's clearly nothing there. That whole team adores that kid. And anybody who has ever met that kid, you walk away thinking nobody's that good of a dude, but he is. He just flat out is. So I don't know. There was a ton that went on about this. I thought about writing a couple different articles. I thought about pulling receipts on Connor Cook. I just decided not to go down that rabbit hole, but now we can talk about it for a few minutes here as we move into, week 2 when the captains have already been established.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're a rival, fan base of Michigan at this point, you're looking for anything you can find to get excited about and talk about, because the reality is there's things not exciting about Michigan State and things that aren't exciting about Ohio State. So these are the things you cling to if you're from a rival fan base. But at the end of the day, I agree with you. All the guys listed, Trevor Keegan, Zach Zinner, Blake Corum, Those guys all had a shot to go to the NFL and chose to come back to be at Michigan for another year and go after something bigger. And so for as much as I love JJ, you love JJ, the fans of the team loves him, there are guys that are more deserving of that opportunity. And I know that underclassmen have had that title before, but they weren't built like this team. They weren't built like a team that was returning 80% of its production from last year. Guys that are veterans, guys that have put in their time, and guys who have earned that title. So I have absolutely no problem with it. You know, Cade voted a captain last year. Like, to me, that's irrelevant to this year's team and what this year looked like. If you look at the guys who were voted captains on this team, every single one of them made sense. There was nobody that I stepped back and was like, that's kind of strange. They're all veterans. They all make an impact. They've all put in their time. They've all earned that title. I did think it was interesting. I saw online earlier today that did you see the way that Blake Corum was actually named captain? So typically what they do is, they have the players vote on it. You write names in or whatever it is. That didn't happen. Blake said that just one day Harbaugh walked into a team meeting and just said, we're going to make Blake Corum captain. Like right out of the gate, like we didn't even wait. So like that's how highly he's thought of. And don't tell me he couldn't have been a captain last year. Mm-hmm. Blake Corum has been a leader on this team. People look to him. He talked about leadership last year, being more vocal. It just wasn't his time yet, but it was his time. It's Zach Zinner's time. It's Keegan's time. It's Chris Jenkins' time. It's Mike Sainris still is about everything you could ever want in a veteran leader. You talk about Mike Barrett, a guy who's been with the program for like 12 years now. I mean, these guys have put in their time. They deserve it. Anybody who made anything out of JJ not being a captain, I think it's more a product of you just don't understand what this team is made up of and the guys that were actually put in that position. Because if you did, it would make sense.
Honestly, wouldn't even be surprised if like JJ had been named a captain. He'd have been like, nah, pass it off to somebody else. Like, right. Your point is so valid in how much these guys had waiting for them at the next level. They said, nah, we'll come back. The 81% production, like there hasn't been a team put together like this at Michigan, maybe ever, in terms of the leadership and guys who could have went pro and decided to come back. And the reason why they can, I mean, Michigan hasn't been this good in a long time. So when you've got guys that passed over the NFL or put the NFL on hold to come back for another year at Michigan, that just simply hasn't really been the case at Michigan, because I mean, you can go back and look when guys had a chance to go, they went, even when they probably shouldn't have, they went. But guys like this decided to come back because of the bigger picture, like you said. So I could not think less of this non-situation. Like just in looking at the makeup of this team, the fabric of the team, the leaders that are there, it's a no-brainer. And like I said, if JJ McCarthy does stick around for his senior year, which, being a team captain at Michigan seems like something that kid might want to do. I know we've had that talk before. It's not time for it yet, but he will have a decision to make, it looks like, after this season in terms of his future in Ann Arbor. Matt Kirby, we don't typically get into this a whole lot, but Steve Clinkscale did speak pretty candidly about this today. Omarion Walker still dinged. Will Johnson, Rod Moore, both practicing. And I think I said this last week. I feel like, they were in full uniform. They were going through warmups. They looked fine. If they really, really needed those dudes, I think they could have went. And Makari Page was also listed as questionable. He played 10 snaps. And I found that interesting today that Clinkscale said, we really just put Makari out there to kind of get the ball rolling with the younger guys. But we just wanted those younger guys to look over there and see some experience, see some physicality. Oh, that's how you do it. And then they took him out. I don't know if I've ever really heard of something like that before, but Clinkscale kind of broke that down today. So I think there are some injuries lingering around, but none of them sound like, anything that you need to really worry about at this point.
Yeah, and it sounds like Will Johnson, Rod Moore are going to be back for this weekend. That's what I'm hearing. So
you were down there on the field. You saw these. I mean, I don't know, from the box, it didn't even look like, I couldn't even tell what was injured. Like, were they limping? Were they favored?
No, I had just assumed that Rod Moore and Will Johnson were gonna play based on what I was seeing from the sideline and taking photos. So again, if it's anything, if there's any sort of inkling of like a nagging injury or whatever, no need to do it against the ECU. No need to aggravate something that could lead to another 2 or 3 weeks. If 1 week's rest is going to get these guys right and get them ready, then it makes all the sense in the world. So excited though, except because look, you talk about Will Johnson and even Rod Moore. I mean, these are guys that have had a big impact on this Michigan defense. And I think people are really excited. Rod Moore, most likely his last season in Ann Arbor. Will Johnson, he's still going to have another year to go, but already being talked about as somebody who would have went in the first round in this past draft. So I'm really excited to see him get out on the field, see what type of impact he can make.
Special kid, man. That is an elite talent right there. The size, the length, the speed, intelligence.
Get him on offense a little bit too. Maybe not early in the season, but let's see a little bit of that.
How about that comment, Chris? To segue right into this other one. What does Michigan have to do to recruit a Travis Hunter type of player? I mean, dude, the kid, he's living up to all the hype. The number one recruit in the country. The interception that he made down by the goal line where he completely came off of his guy and just laid out to pick it off and go the other way. The jump balls, the speed and the elusiveness in the open field. Played 129 snaps. Like, that's wild. That is a wild amount of snaps. I think Michigan's absolute leader in snaps on Saturday was J.J. McCarthy and the 5 offensive linemen, and they played 58. Yeah, it's incredible. It's I wouldn't quite say Will Johnson's that kind of guy because he's smaller, he's wiry, he plays and moves different, but the kid's special. I mean, to recruit a Travis Hunter type, there aren't a lot of Travis Hunter types. I mean, you got to start there first. But I think Jabril Peppers would have been in that discussion. Michigan didn't utilize him as much, but he was that kind of guy. Yeah. So would he? You have to wonder, like, would he be playing that way if the roster was a little more established and Deion had been there for 6 or 8 years? Are you still going to play that kid 130 snaps, or is this just like, all right, he's one of the best players we've ever seen, we need to run him into the ground? Because that's what they're doing right now. So
I'm kind of a fan of that idea. I like you too. You put your best players on the field and you see what the results are. I will say this. Look, I understand that there were a lot, and I saw other people asking about the questions about, the L and the D on the jersey for Colorado and whether or not we like that, leaders and dogs or whatever it is. I understand that there were a lot of people that were doubting Colorado going into the season, whether or not Deion's philosophy was going to work. I think there's only 4 players still on the roster that were there last year. It's transfer portal, talk. I got to say, after TCU and what this week has been like, maybe I'm a bit of a hater here, Brandon, but I'm really looking forward to seeing Colorado lose a football game. I can't take it. I can't take the Colorado hype anymore. It went from like underdog to, just complete, Heisman this team might not lose a game, yada, yada, yada. Like, I just think we need to pump the brakes on Colorado a little bit. Yes, they went to TCU and they beat them on the road, but this is not the TCU of 2022. So I think, people are just losing perspective. I know this is what Deion Sanders does. He gets people excited, ultimate hype man. I'm happy for what he's doing for that program. You want to see Colorado do well, but damn it, we need to pump the brakes on this just a little bit. It's driving me nuts with all the Heisman talk and that we come in and I'm about to get comfortable and all this other shit. I don't want to hear it anymore. Somebody needs to humble the Buffalo.
I couldn't agree more with a lot of what you said. I don't know if I'm hoping for them to lose per se.
Talking about how like the FCS isn't all that much different. Like, come on now. What are we doing?
One thing I have a big problem with is how Deion was talking to the media after the game. He's like, you got your receipts? I got mine. You know what they said?
Single them out, saying like, oh, I read what you said. Well, the dude did his job.
You just gave up 42 to a TCU team that's probably going to win 3 games this year, you dink. That's what I would have said. Like, dude, I understand you were an underdog, but a lot of times the first week lines don't mean shit because nobody knows what this team has. You're going off of last year a little bit. That TCU team wasn't supposed to be very good last year. They outperformed those expectations, lost probably 8 of their top players on the whole team, and aren't going to be very good this year. If you look at their schedule, they've got Nichols next week. They probably win that one. At Houston, I'm not giving them a dub in that game. I would not be surprised if Houston, that's going to be another like 50-50 game. That could go either way. SMU, I don't think they're winning that game. West Virginia, I don't think they're winning that game. Iowa State, maybe. Iowa State's in a bit of shambles right now. It's in Iowa. It's in Ames. We'll see. BYU, that's an L. Kansas State, L. Texas Tech, L. Texas, L. Baylor, God knows what the hell's going on at Baylor, but I would have said that was a loss, but who knows now. And then to finish the year, just at Oklahoma, L. That TCU team's not very good, and they're not going to win a lot of games. And the same can be said for Colorado. Look, if they can beat Nebraska, I'll give them a little more credit.
Well, I mean,
Nebraska's not
how good is Nebraska, right?
I don't know. I'm with you. I think it's a little crazy. I think Deion's getting a little bit big for his britches, but that's been his MO since '84. So whatever the hell you want to do, man. Yeah. They've already won their win total from last year. You got to give them some credit for that. Went on the road, beat a ranked team.
You do, and I get it. His son had a hell of a game. I mean, I get why he was amped up, but to see the way the media has responded to it has just been it's been a little much for me, Brandon. I'd like to see Colorado get knocked down a peg already, and it's only just heading into the second week of the season, and I'm already over it.
Knocked down a peg, he says. How about this? Shedeur Sanders just threw for more yards in a game than any quarterback in Michigan history.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, it's his first time out there. He's just winging around some guy. More yards.
I mean, more yards than any quarterback at Colorado as well. So, he had an incredible game, and we know that Michigan is not. Look, this is not a passing really program. But I don't know. Week 1 looked promising. We'll see how the season goes for Michigan. I still think that 25 TD number is going down in flames this year. Down. Has to.
Going down. All right, we talked about this through burning questions on Monday. We'll rehash it real quickly here for Mr. Judge. Worried about the kicking situation.
I did. I think I remember. Yeah, I remember saying like I was slightly concerned about it.
Yeah.
But part of that is because you're on the heels of a guy like Jake Moody, who is just incredible, one of Michigan's, greatest all-time kickers. And then you see, a missed extra point, and you see a missed field goal, and, but he also nailed that big 50-yarder. And, there were some things that he did well. We talked about it on Monday. He's a veteran kicker. I'm not pushing the panic button quite yet. I want to see what it looks like over the next couple of weeks, but we do know, Brandon, that kickers can have a tendency to be head kick. I mean, that is a cerebral position. You've got to be right mentally. And if you start to feel off a little bit, you can see how kickers, all of a sudden they're automatic and then they start missing left and right. And so you hope that he gets on track against UNLV and we don't have to worry about it, because I do think Michigan's going to be in a situation where they are going to have to rely on their field goal kicker, like they had to rely on Jake Moody last year to keep that undefeated record.
Total digression here. That probably shouldn't even bring this up, but this is wild. You mentioned that kickers can be head cases. It's a little bit of
we saw what happened with Ray Finkel. I mean, this has been going on for a while.
Correct. Chris, John Jansen of Michigan lore. He's on the radio in the morning with who's he on there with? Before Karsh.
Stoney, isn't it? Stoney
and Jansen. I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
He actually said he hates kickers so much, by the way, like so much. He said that he would rather his son be an offensive lineman for Ohio State than to be a kicker for Michigan. That's outlandish nonsense, is it not?
Yeah. I mean,
he got,
especially for somebody who played at Michigan, to say something like that, as he should,
as he should. Text and the calls. This was last week sometime.
That's egregious. That's egregious. You can't make that kind. Matter of fact, isn't he on the call with Karsh? Doesn't he do the? Yeah, no, he should not be in the booth any longer. You make a statement like that, you're done here in Ann Arbor. You could just take it to Columbus.
That is wild. That is wild stuff. Chris, you were down on the field. I mean, everybody watching the game was experiencing. I don't know if you maybe heard any little scuttlebutt down there, but the man, that was I can't believe it.
Little scuttlebutt down on the sideline. No,
I can't believe it. I can't believe I went with that one. I can't.
I haven't heard that used in. I don't know that I've ever heard it used.
Feel the need to apologize to my father immediately, my son. Anyway. Did we did we notice anything with the rule change, the clock not stopping after first downs now? I know it's led to, I want to say the average was like 5 or 7 less plays per game, or something like that. And that's kind of the point. Less plays for these high octane offenses, less chance of injury, and speed the game up a little bit. But I really didn't notice it unless I was like specifically paying attention to it in that 2-minute last drive drill type of thing.
I think it's something that you don't notice until after the game and you go back and you look at how many drives they had and then you compare it, because every player that was at media availability this week said they didn't even notice it. I sure didn't notice it. I mean, we were all down there sweating our asses off just trying to make it through the afternoon. And I think that's kind of the mindset. And so when you're in the game and when you're down there and in the elements, you're not really thinking like, oh man, like we have less time to get, to have more drives or whatever it is. It's not until you go back and you sort of analyze things that you notice a difference. So no, I didn't notice any difference. And everything we heard from the players suggests they didn't notice it either.
And like at the end of the game, I feel like you're not looking like, oh, that one. I didn't have any of that. It felt pretty normal to me. And obviously inside of 2 minutes, it still does stop to reset the chain. So in those most crucial moments when you actually need it to be there, it still is. So yeah, I didn't really notice much either. AJ Cooper, appreciate this question. It's one I've thought about, but so Sharon Moore will be back this week. He'll be calling plays again. He'll be back in his element wherever he's at. With the O-line, with the run game. I do think the run game picks up, but I actually think it's more because of the opponent than Sharon. But I'm curious. I don't know if you'll ever know, because it's not like they're playing ECU with the exact same game plan again, but you do wonder, how much of a calming effect or a settling influence that Sharon can be being back down there with his own lineman, make this check, do this, do that, a little bit more involved with the run game with Mike Hart. I do think the running attack will be better, but there's just so many moving parts that I don't know if it's really because of Sharon coming back or not.
Well, you got to think UNLV saw what ECU did and saw that it was effective. Now, obviously, it's not great to then have to defend against JJ McCarthy because they also saw that film. But that question came up this week during player availability. Somebody asked Colston Loveland, do you think there's going to be a difference with having Sharon Moore, back on the sideline? And his answer was, basically no disrespect to Sharon Moore, but he said, this is a veteran team. We know what our job is. We know what our assignments are. We think we're naturally just going to get better from week 1 to week 2. Will it be better to have Sharon Moore on the sideline versus at home on the couch? Absolutely. And having his presence on the sideline is going to be great for the team. But in terms of what it means, on the field of play itself, the Colston Loveland didn't seem to think it was going to make that much of a difference. And I personally, when we talked about this on Monday, same thing. I mean, I just think it's going to be a natural progression of this team getting better from week 1 to week 2. But it will be interesting to see, what does UNLV do? Because ECU laid a pretty good blueprint for, you want to shut down number 2 and number 7. Here's what you need to do. Now, Michigan will make some adjustments if that's the case. But then again, how are you going to defend against JJ McCarthy? You can't leave your corners out on an island. Roman Wilson's pretty difficult to cover. Cornelius Johnson, pretty difficult to cover. Colston Loveland had 4 receptions. Donovan Edwards can do some damage in the passing game. So that's what I like about this Michigan offense is you try to stop one thing. It's like a leak in the ship, and you get one whole patch and the other one starts shooting water out, and it's tough to stop.
Donovan Edwards said it best earlier this year. Which one do you want to lose to? He was talking about just himself and Blake, but it extends beyond that. There's no doubt. Haven't even really, tonight we haven't, but it hasn't even really been on the rate. Like, not even mentioning JJ McCarthy as a runner yet. Like, not even mentioning the quarterback run game hasn't even really been a thought in any of the stuff we've talked about. But that's still there in the playbook and in the back pocket. I don't think you'll see that for a while, but it's there, and he's a handful to deal with as a runner as well. Especially if he can cross the line of scrimmage by 1.5 yards and still throw it downfield, right? Come on, we all saw that. We know what happened there. God, should have been a penalty. I think so, yeah. The only thing I wonder, and I'm not trying to stick up for, I don't ever do the stick up for the refs thing, like, whatever. Like, if they make bad calls, they make good calls. It is what it is. But if he was in the air, I don't know if there's a technicality. If his foot was still behind the line when he left the ground and was in the air when he let go of it before it came back down, because that's actually what looked like happened I didn't think it mattered. I thought your foot had to be like, even if it was in the air, it still had to be behind the line, like part of your body. But I don't know. And they didn't really explain it that well. And I actually tried to look it up online, and I didn't find any like deeper dive into the rule other than you just can't be beyond the line. And I was like, well, what if you were about, like if you're dribbling down the court on a fast break and you jump from behind the 3-point line and you end up doing a finger roll, it's 3 points, right? You jump from behind the line. So I don't know how that works or what that specific part of that rule is. I would have liked to hear them explain that a little bit more. But anyway, it counted. Chalk it up. 3 touchdowns for JJ, 3 touchdowns for Roman.
Oh.
Chris, I know you've said this a couple times already. I think you're still there. What's your concern about a possible loss this year, and which game?
Same one it's been all off season. And then especially after watching, I know that Michigan doesn't have to go there at night, but I think you and I are both, you look at Ohio State week 1, you look at Penn State week 1, and then you look around the Big Ten. To me, the biggest threat to Michigan, and I put out an article, what is the biggest threat to Michigan's championship hopes within the conference this year? And to me, it's Penn State, hands down. You got to go on the road. You got to play the Nittany Lions in their building, which is not an easy place to play. And I think we both think Drew Aller is going to continue to progress and get good this year. Penn State has some dudes on both sides of the ball. I just think if Michigan does lose a game this year, it's going to happen at Happy Valley. I think we're going to see more of the same when Michigan meets Ohio State at the end of the year. I don't just think Michigan's going to win. I view it right now as a, 2-3 touchdown win for Michigan. They look that much better. Now we know Ohio State will get better, but guess who else is going to get better? Michigan is going to get better as the season goes on. So yeah, the biggest concern right now is Penn State, hands down. They look like a formidable opponent. You got to go into their building and try to get a win there. Not going to be easy. Not going to be easy.
Yeah, I say that too. And I say it even more confidently now. Look, Ohio State does not have a quarterback. They don't have one yet. Kyle McCord wasn't impressive. They played Devin Brown a little bit here and there. They don't know what they've got. And
there's no chance that either one of those guys over the next 5, 6, 7 weeks is going to start to look like CJ Stroud, Dwayne Haskins, JT Barrett even. You're not going to see that type of performance out of these guys. And so, Ohio State's biggest weapon offensively, Marvin Harrison Jr., again, if you've got questions on the offensive line and you don't have a quarterback that's effective in getting the ball out there, you've just minimized your greatest threat offensively. So I'm with Joel Klatt. A lot of concerns down in Columbus, and for somebody who's living in Ann Arbor, I think that's pretty damn good. I love it. I'm enjoying it.
It's like rolling just like a brand new Ferrari out there, and then putting a toddler behind the wheel. Cool.
Yeah.
I mean, you got all this technology, all the horsepower, all the speed, all the aerodynamics. Nobody to drive it, and that's a major problem for that team because they're literally built to be good only if they have elite quarterback play. Yeah, that's they have to have it. They can't lean on anything else, and that could be a problem for them. Big problem. Yeah,
I will say this though. They are recruiting very, very well in Columbus, and so it's Michigan needs to capitalize and continue to beat these guys because they're bringing in some talent, particularly at the wide receiver position. The Ohio State isn't going away. I do think this is going to be a down year. I think they lose, maybe 3 games this year. I think they're going to lose to Notre Dame. I think they're going to lose to Penn State, and I think they're going to lose to Michigan. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a surprise loss somewhere in there as well. So that's 3 losses for the Buckeyes that I can say easy. I mean, do you think they're going to go into South Bend and beat Notre Dame? I don't.
Notre Dame is like Michigan light right now. They've got they upgraded at quarterback. They upgraded at quarterback. They've got a very good offensive line, and they've got a handful of backs that can go and that can pound the ball, run the ball, move the sticks, get into the end zone. Yeah, that's gonna be a tough one for Ohio State. There's no doubt about it. And I think Notre Dame is overhyped and overrated every year, but they've got a formula that looks like it will be effective against an Ohio State team. That's how it looks to me right now. Let's see. Going through, I'm just now getting to the Brandon Speed comments. 13 miles an hour.
Cow. Wow.
12.5, 11. Christ, Brian. I could go 11 in my back pedal, dude. Former
Listen,
DB.
No,
all right.
No. Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's a former DB at what level? Let's level with the people.
The highest. New Lothrop High School. Thank you. Dominant. Division 8. Need I say more?
Well, Brandon, here's the thing. I would have, if somebody would have said over under at 9.5 miles an hour, I would have taken the under.
You're insane, dude.
I would have
That's
taken
so
the
slow.
under. That's what I'm putting the over under at 9.5.
That's so slow. That's so slow. I will dust 9.5. I think I would hit double digits
put it on film.
in my back pedal. Mark it.
I think you'd hit double digits in stitches on your back pedal trying to go 10 miles an hour.
I'm smooth with it, baby. I'm cutting grass, dog. I got the back pedal down. Smooth, dude. Hips like oil,
Listen,
brother.
I'm going to say this. Whatever we capture on film will be shown to the people.
Show them. Put it on the new scoreboards.
It will be shown to the people.
I'm ready, dude.
We're going to record it. We're going to do it.
I mean,
we have to.
I'll get the W drill, dude. We'll pull it all out, dude. We will pull it out. Pull it out. Showed it to you. I'm ready. I really wish I could see the comments now of what's being said because I'm still like.
When is the last time you backpedaled as fast as you possibly could? I mean, what are we doing here?
It's a fair point. That's a fair point. But
and we're going to do this on pavement?
Why the hell did we say we were going to do it on? Why would I do it on pavement? That's
because I'm going to be driving next to you in a vehicle, filming and clocking you in.
No, that's
we don't have any high technology here.
That's like taking Secretariat and putting them in an ice rink, dude. We're not doing that.
Now you're a prize horse.
You heard what I said. We're doing it on turf. I'm gonna be geared up.
It's like taking Tanya Harding and putting her in mud.
For real, it is.
She needs to skate, baby.
Hi, Tanya. Oh, baby.
Didn't think there'd be a Tanya Harding reference on tonight's show.
Secretariat and Tanya Harding in the same discussion.
We are.
It's 52 minutes in. This is about rail time.
Here we go.
Yeah, we can only Connor Cook being called a dickhead is an insult to some dickheads I know.
He was a prick.
And people said that about him. That's what there was some supporting evidence as to why he didn't get chosen as a captain.
I mean, what was it when they won? Was it when they won the Big Ten and he walked up on stage and
dude, he's a
cocky. Yeah.
I mean, JJ, he about body checked Archie Griffin off the stage to get the trophy, dude. That's a 2-time Heisman winner, sir. I know he's a Buckeye, but let's back it down a little bit. I'll tell you what, JJ is not body checking any elders to grab a trophy. We'll put it that way.
No,
man. All right, now I'm still like 30 minutes behind where we were supposed to be at.
Oh boy.
Do we want to? I don't want to talk that. It's not a bad question, Cody, but we're getting close to the end here. Not going to finish up the show with a discussion about USC's quarterback, but I do think it is kind of interesting that he might just stay another year because his NIL dollars are so good. If he doesn't,
and he doesn't want to be in the college football game that's coming out. Guess what, Caleb Williams?
We don't need
somebody who actually wants you there. They'll create you in 5 minutes. No big deal. You'll be on a downloadable roster.
I've been saying it since they stopped making it in 2014. We don't need any of the players. Just do generic rosters. The gaming community will fill it out however necessary. Or if not, if you play a dynasty, Chris, which I know you do, you're in the second or third year of that thing. The players aren't real anymore anyway. It doesn't matter. We just want the game. If it gets pushed back again or some other thing happens because of guys like Caleb Williams, I'm going to be upset. Really upset, dude. I do not want that to happen. We need that game back. Period.
Have to have that game back. If there's another delay, I'm going to lose my shit.
That's what I'm saying.
I haven't bought a new system specifically because that game went away. I am very much looking forward to abandoning my wife and children to go sit in a room by myself and play with myself as a created character in a Heisman campaign.
For days.
You know how much easier the off seasons are going to be having that game around?
Don't talk to me. Scuttlebutt. That was 15 minutes ago. I said that. I'm just now getting to it.
What is? I don't even know what scuttlebutt is. I feel like I need to Google the definition.
I used it perfectly. I'm a little ashamed to know that I did, but I did.
Is that is that the same from the same era as calling somebody a gumshoe?
Maybe the same era. Yeah, it's like gossip. A little buzz down there on the sideline.
Scuttlebutt, rumor or gossip.
There you go. See, I know what
the
I'm talking
scuttlebutt
about.
has it. He was a spy. Is the definite? Okay, all right, cool.
So,
well,
yeah,
done.
like I said, I was a little bit sad that I knew what it was. Even sadder that I put it into rotation.
So impressive use of a word.
Well, I'm a
any
conversationalist
on the sidelines.
I'm a conversation. It's a strong word. Oh boy, we're not going to do the Harbaugh leaving stuff just yet. Let's get a third of the way through the season.
No.
Can we do that?
Can't do it.
Saw another NFL team mentioned today. I'm like, Jesus, man, it's early for that. Early for that.
Nope.
The video of the 40. Yeah,
I don't know how we're going to get an accurate speed on it if there's not a car right next to you going as fast as you're going. How are we going to get the speed?
So we'll just do a 40. We'll just do a 40 and a stopwatch, and you can do.
I'm talking miles per hour. How fast can you run? That was the question. What's
guarantee
speed.
I guarantee we could name drop in Big Dick a gym somewhere and say Sports Illustrated and use one of those things where you run on it. Guaranteed. Well, that's probably what we'll do. Who's faster, me or Rich Eisen? Good Lord. He runs like sevens on the 40 when he does the run, Rich, run thing.
But he's also not eating the family meal from KFC, Brandon.
Dude, I'm built for this, dude. One shot. I'm not talking about going out and doing this day in and day out for extended periods of time. I'm gonna get it, dude. I'm like the Hudson Hornet, dude. I got one left in me. I'm ready, dude. I'm ready for it.
Maybe that's what we'll serve up on the bye week.
That's not a bad idea. It's not a bad idea to try to track that down a little bit here. Well, look, we're at 57 minutes. I'm now at the bottom. It was a lot. Some of the stuff we talked about warranted more comments than questions, but yeah, I'm not seeing any other questions. If you guys have them,
all right. How about this?
Let them fly right now.
Let's end on the last question.
See, look.
Okay, but this guy knows you. He's a friend.
Exactly. He grew up with me. He knows what I got.
Right. Which means he's biased, Brandon. He's biased.
No, there's no bias.
Okay. General, your money is on Brown to do what? Because we're talking about top end speed. Okay, better than Rich Eisen, maybe. Yeah. Is Brandon? What did you say? You said you were in the high double digits. So what, you think you're running 16, 17 miles an hour?
I think I can hit 15 miles an hour.
There is no way you're hitting 15 miles an hour.
Dude, I'm hitting it.
Want that as a drop. Let's end with the question from Vince S. Because this has been something that I saw this on social media. Oh, Jesus Christ. Please, no.
Thin ankles, God. Dude, built for speed. I'm like an ostrich over here, dude. Thin ankles, built for it.
I'm just not sure about it, Brandon. I'm just not sure about it.
I'm not going to get the quads. We're about the quads out, but I could do that too.
I don't want to see any more of the body parts.
We're
about to hit an hour here. Go to Vince S's question near the bottom, one of the most recent. He asked a question about something that I saw pop up on social media here, and I'm going to share my thoughts on it, and then Brandon, you can add to it whatever you want.
I don't know if I'm familiar with this. What is this?
So a story came out this week, basically talking about how JJ, when he first got to Michigan, eager to learn, wanted to learn from the veteran quarterback that was there, had reached out to Cade McNamara. Cade McNamara ghosted him. Never got back to him. Never wanted to work. JJ was, I want to work. I want to learn. I want to do this. Cade McNamara, no interest. Never got back to him. And a lot of people have taken this as an opportunity to jump on Cade McNamara's ass and talk about, he was this and he was that and yada, yada. Here's my thing. Who the hell cares? Who cares whether or not Cade McNamara answered JJ McCarthy's text back in 2021 or whatever the hell year it is? That kid's long gone. JJ's now beginning his second year as a starter. Why the hell are we talking about Cade McNamara at this point? The guy is irrelevant. He's at another program. I saw it pop up and I saw on Twitter, everybody, Cade this, Cade that. And my thought was, who gives a shit? Michigan is on the path to winning a national championship. They've got their guy. Things are working. Why are we on this Cade McNamara fixation? Who the hell cares if he ghosted him? Did it matter? Did it have any impact on JJ's development? Absolutely none. So to me, to answer the question, Vince, I think it's irrelevant. I mean, I've always known and believed that JJ was going to be the guy. It was only a matter of time. And it only took to week 2 of the sophomore year to take the job away from McNamara, and the rest is history.
Really wish I had the board.
What's
happens
that?
If we went out, huh?
Oh, Jesus. That's still on there?
That's on there. It is. Well, here's what I can say about it. I didn't even hear about this. I don't know how it was. If it was all over social and people were talking about it, I did not hear it. I don't care about it at this point.
Why would you?
Yeah, I don't know. That is.
You know how weird social media gets, though. You know
Yeah.
how people are weird on there. You see something, you latch onto it, and then it just became this, days of talking about Cade McNamara and what a terrible guy he was. And I don't know, didn't know him personally, and I don't care. It doesn't matter.
I don't even have any interest in going down that road. Like there was a thing here or there that maybe rubbed me a little bit the wrong way about Cade, but I don't care. He was Michigan's quarterback when they won a first Big Ten title in a long time. Cool. And now he's at Iowa and JJ's running shit, and it is what it cool. Like, it doesn't need to be any more than that.
And I will say this. It's not surprising when obviously sports are different and you want to see things handled differently. But in the real world, in reality, Brandon, nobody wants to train their replacement.
No.
When things are headed that way, like whether it's in your professional life, somewhere at work, they bring in somebody younger, you're training your replacement. Nobody wants to do that. So I'm not surprised by what I heard, but overall, I don't care. We're so far beyond that. It doesn't matter.
Well, I'm about to YouTube 15 miles an hour. I want to make sure I didn't bite off more than I can chew.
Well, I'm holding you to it now, Brandon.
Well, listen, if I don't get it,
you're an ostrich. I saw your ankles. We're going to keep it at 15.
If I don't get it the first time, I will get it. I will get 15 miles an hour.
We'll see just how close you can get to 15. Because you said deep into the double digits. We're going to find out.
Well, that was when you were setting over-unders at 9, and people were saying not 8, 9, whatever. I don't think 15's that fast.
Here you are. You're getting some support. Count 22 says 15 easy, Brandon. You got it.
I don't think it's that fast.
Matt Kirby wants to see less ankles next show. Maybe less ankles, more chest hair.
I'm making zero promises about that. I personally feel like my ankles haven't made enough appearances on the show. I don't know. What can I say? The bottom half still looks like it could go. Upper half, a little barrel bodied, a little barrel with arms.
Little torso talk here to close out.
Capping at 13. See, I just don't agree. Man, it makes me
We'll find out.
I'm going to stretch when I get done.
You better go out there and get on your Gazelle machine. Get those quads in working order. Because we're going to put them to the test, Brandon.
All right.
None of that's going to help your speed.
I just pulled a muscle in my back. I'll see you guys on we'll see you guys on Friday, 7 o'clock, the day before Michigan takes on UNLV. Yeah, there you go.